Hello there, I'm the Biblical Translator, and I call myself the Biblical Translator because I take scriptures from the Bible and I translate them in my own mind, and I share my thoughts with whoever's listening. So thank you for listening to me on TikTok. Today's scripture is taken from Romans 8:35. Let me read it for you. Can anything ever separate us from Christ's love? Does it mean he no longer loves us if we have trouble or calamity, or are persecuted or hungry, or destitute or in danger, or threatened with death? As the scriptures say, for your sake we are killed every day. We are being slaughtered like sheep. Despite all these things, overwhelming victory is ours through Christ, who lived in us, who loved us. Sorry. And I don't know if that's a reassuring scripture or not, because you kind of think that if you love God and if you worship him and you follow him and you obey his commandments, you're going to be reprieved from pain, from persecution, from judgment, all of those kind of things. I think some people believe that if you're a Christian, child of God, whether you're born again or traditional, that if you go to church on Sundays and if you try to be the best you can be, you won't have these challenges. You won't witness loved ones dying, or you won't have cancer, or you won't have all of these trials and tribulations and challenges that non-Christians face. And when some Christians face those challenges, they almost persecute God and they almost rebuke God and say, look, I've been following you, I worship you, I go to church, I love you, I pray every day, I try to do the right thing. Why am I being persecuted? Why am I experiencing all these tragedies? Why is it going wrong for me day after day? It's endless, the trouble I'm experiencing. I'm in financial distress. I've just lost my parents. I've just lost a family member. I've just lost my job. Why are these things happening if I put my faith in you, Lord? And for some reason, Christians believe they're exempt from all of the trials that non-Christians have. But what happens as a Christian is that, yes, you go through all of these things, but your mindset is meant to be different. Your mindset is meant to tell you or remind you that things will be better, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that things will turn out for your good, that God ultimately has your back. But it's very difficult to believe that when you're going through all these trials and tribulations, and especially when they say you'll be slaughtered like sheep, because you don't feel as though you should be slaughtered. You feel as though you should be protected. What is the point of Psalm 27? What is the point of Psalm 91? What is the point of us asking God to protect us and shield us from harm, shield us from evil, if all of these things are still happening to us? The thing is that a lot of these things that happen to us have got nothing to do with God at all. Majority of things have got to do with man, man's interference, man's lack of faith, man's greed, man's violation of the code, the law of God. Fasting where they're not supposed to fast, going and investigating and examining and researching what they're not supposed to research and touch. Food that we eat has been messed around with, so it messes around with our bodies. The things that they tell us to do are not conducive to our well-being, and yet we do it because out of fear, or whether we feel as though we should, whatever the reason. So a lot of times, especially when they say, I was reading something about cancer, how they said it was parasites or something that are causing cancer. Personally, I think cancer is caused by stress. They do tend to say, you know, it's hereditary, but I really believe that stress weakens the immune system and makes you prone to cancer. So I think the first thing that we have to remind ourselves is not to worry. Remember that a hair won't be harmed on our heads. And that doesn't mean that we are, like I said, exempt from pain and all of these things. It means that there's a higher force at work that will protect us ultimately from bearing anything that we cannot bear any longer. You know, sometimes you find people who are in so much pain and then they're given morphine by the doctors and the morphine deadens the pain. The pain is still going on in their body, but it's deadened by morphine. And it's a bit like when you have pain of any sort, whether it's because somebody's betrayed you, somebody's broken your heart, somebody's trying to get revenge against you, somebody resents you, whatever it is, you have to kind of take a spiritual morphine to deaden yourself to all of these things that are out to harm you so that you can actually rise above it. Sometimes we can heal ourselves just simply by not worrying about the dilemma that we're in. A lot of times it's the worry and the concern and the anxiety that makes our situation worse. And it creates even larger challenges. And it creates even more pain. Because can you imagine, if you, supposing you're diagnosed with cancer, before that day you were diagnosed with cancer, weren't you going about your daily business? Weren't you happy and joyful and doing everything you wanted to do? And those couple of words from a physician, I'm ever so sorry, but you've been diagnosed with cancer. The whole of your spirit changes. The whole of your thought process changes. Everything about your whole world crumbles. How can it change just by one day because of what somebody says? It's because what people say penetrate the mind, and that is why you have to be so careful what you take in the mind and how you interpret what people say to you in your mind. Supposing he said, I'm sorry you have cancer, but we can fix it. Would that make you feel less worried? Or would you feel just as worried? It's very difficult to talk like this, to say, you know, don't be concerned, because I know myself. If I went to the GP and they say I was diagnosed with cancer, I'd be thinking of, I'd be thinking about death. I wouldn't be thinking that they can fix it. I wouldn't be thinking that I can take all the radiation, because I wouldn't want to take none of that stuff. I think what I would probably do is just go until I need the morphine and hopefully adjust my mind. My mind is getting better. I don't overthink as much as I used to, but we have a habit of overthinking and being anxious. And as long as we operate in that way, we're going to find ourselves facing all of these challenges and bringing death to our lives. Because you die when you lose faith. You die when you think that everything is over, when you don't think that there's anything you can do about a situation. So I think, for me, this passage is about just getting to grips with the fact that we are not void of any pain, struggle. And it doesn't mean that we have been forsaken. It just means, as children of God, we just have to adopt a different attitude from those who are not children of God. And that is an attitude of faith, love, and belief. And